Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and we're producing this episode for Forbes, where I'm a contributor covering social entrepreneurship and impact investing. Our guest today, all the way from India, live, is joining us, Secretary Upendra Tripathy, who is the recently retired Secretary of the Ministry of Renewable Energy. Secretary, welcome to the show.
Morning. Thank you.
We're thrilled to have you today. You've been making some remarkable progress on expanding the use of renewable energy in India, and some of your efforts have specifically targeted the implementation or the facilitation of social entrepreneurs in their uses of solar power in India. Why don't you just give us a quick overview of this situation related to renewable energy in India? Secretary, do you want to give us an overview of the situation with renewable energy in India? It appears we may have lost the Secretary. I'm hoping he will rejoin momentarily, as he may have a connectivity issue with the internet. In our preliminary discussions, there was just a little bit of a connectivity problem. Let's hope that he rejoins us momentarily. Secretary, is that you on the phone? Yes. Can you rejoin the Hangout, Secretary? Okay, great. I'm going to hang up the telephone.
And now.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Welcome back. We're thrilled to have you again. So, Secretary, can you give us a quick overview of the renewable energy landscape in India?
Since Prime Minister Modi came and, there has been a sea change in India's renewable energy policy and targets. So far as targets are concerned, solar alone, we have increased the target from 20,000 megawatt by 2022 to 100,000 megawatt. That is 100 gigawatt by 2022. And to make it actionable, we have divided this 100,000 megawatt into 40,000 megawatt solar parks, which is a centralized generation point with connectivity provided, land also provided for the entrepreneurs, companies. And 40,000 megawatt, we have one for rooftop, which doesn't require much of connectivity, reduces TNC loss, and most importantly, it doesn't require land. And 20,000 megawatt we have put for small and medium scale sector on a distributed fashion near substations all over India, which will be actually in areas where there is energy inaccessibility now. And that is how we are progressing, and we are on track to achieve this. Apart from this, we have 60,000 megawatt of target of wind.
Let's slow down a little bit here. Let me ask you a couple of questions. So the solar parks seem like a really good place for social entrepreneurs to play. You've set up places where they can go in and set up solar projects. What kind of scale are you seeing deployed within the solar parks?
Actually, these solar parks are mostly liked by big companies, companies who come from all over the world. And these are mostly the generation points that feeds to the electric grid of the entire country. And so far we have got some 11 important companies from outside, and most of Indian companies are participating in that. And there is a reverse auction process through which they actually get entry into the solar parks. But the 20,000 megawatt that we put for small and medium scale sector, where social entrepreneurs in a small way can come in the generation front. But most opportunities are coming up for the social entrepreneurs in rooftop sector, where actually they can take up, say, cluster of schools, they can take up.
Okay, so you created these parks where you say mostly large businesses are playing. The rooftop solar market, you've allocated 40 gigawatts of your goal toward rooftop solar. Is that where social entrepreneurs are playing a bigger role?
There are 4 areas where the social entrepreneurs can come in. One is the rooftop, where they take up hospitals, a cluster of hospitals, cluster of schools, and maybe some, part of a city. The social entrepreneurs can come in. Second area, they can come in the off-grid sector, where we have brought in a new policy for mini-grids, micro-grids, and nano-grids. And number three, the training sector, the human resources development, where we are training 50,000 mechanics, solar mechanics, those who are just, college-educated people or from polytechnics. That is where social sector comes in a big way for joining in this area. And can you see me, Devin? Because I'm not able to see you.
I turned the cameras off so that I could hear you better.
Okay, good. And then the fourth area where the social entrepreneurs have a big role is the villages. In fact, where they go for a variety of off-grid schemes like solar lamps, solar street lights, other solar applications, where poverty is concerned, raising income of the poor is concerned. So these are the four areas where mostly, they can, the social entrepreneurs are playing a big role, and the existing social entrepreneurs, they are also expanding their role. These are the broad four new areas have come up.
You suggest a couple, I think, of powerful suggestions for entrepreneurs. The first was with respect to those that are working on micro and mini grids, to look for anchor points, you called them, large customers who would help defray some of the capital and maintenance costs so that the full burden doesn't fall on the relatively poor members of a rural village or community. I thought that was a really good insight. What led you to that insight?
Oh, that is, Devin, because we have already 800, mini and microgrids in India, like Sundarbans, in Bihar, in UP, in many states. And particularly now that the government of India have said that 18,000 villages which don't have electricity in India should all be electrified within 1,000 days. That is somewhere around, June of 18. The problem for the mini grids was that what happens when the grid comes. So that we have changed the policy. We have changed the policy saying that they will continue. Then the other insight that came, because whenever I visited these mini grids, one of the complaints of the people was that, the tariff goes up gradually. So I found that there are some sources, like say colleges or shops or a bank or a petrol pump nearby, or even the mobile towers, which require 24/7 electricity. Usually they get from diesel, fossil fuel. Now, this was a win-win situation when the mini grids provide energy to these mobile towers and connect to the nearby villages or homes. They can cross-subsidize by collecting a little more from the mobile towers who can afford it, and who, in fact, right now, if you take the case of India, the cost from diesel is 23 rupees per kilowatt hour, whereas solar will be much cheaper than that. And that is how this insight came, that in all places, these entrepreneurs must search for some points where some people can pay more, and these people can cross-subsidize the poor, because in India, tariff for the cost of power is a critical issue now.
Yes, that's a great insight, and I appreciate you providing that background. Your other tip for social entrepreneurs, I think, was equally valid, equally important. You suggested that entrepreneurs do a thoughtful assessment of the environment, that is the ecosystem in which they'll be operating, to look for available support, especially from not only their peers, but also government grants and programs that may be available in those respective areas to support what they're doing. Tell us a little bit more about what may be available for social entrepreneurs in that regard.
In fact, this came because I had several meetings with social entrepreneurs and the companies who are actually in this field of making energy accessible to the poor, because we have got an international solar alliance now in India. This is a multi-country platform. It is a treaty-based organization. In fact, 24 countries have signed recently in Marrakesh. So when I had meetings, they suggested that every country requires a policy to actually promote mini grids and micro grids. And in that context, I found that entrepreneurs, whether in India or outside, or in these 121 countries, who are prospective members of the Solar Alliance, which Prime Minister Modi has launched along with President of France and the Secretary General of UN. It was launched on 30th of November 2015. It's very critical that they must know what is the policy existing at that point of time, what is their future, and what are the support system that government has put in place. So, because social entrepreneurs, given the nature, the data mining, the policy analysis, they should take more care of this. So they're aware of the benefits they can take from the system legally, and the type of support they require from the government, from other, social profits and non-profits nearby to come together. That is the insight I got from them only, because in several cases I found that they were not aware of the benefits that were legally due to them.
Yeah, it's interesting that that there are more benefits available than they may be aware of, and a great suggestion that they research it as they get started. Now, Secretary, I want to take advantage of the opportunity that having you on the show to ask you a couple of personal insights. You have been widely lauded and complimented for your great work during your tenure. You're a role model to many. Who do you look up to as a role model? Who inspires you?
Well, one thing I must tell you that the Prime Minister has been a role model, because he's the one who actually triggered this type of fundamental change. He's the one who called that it is an article of faith we should go for. In fact, he's the one who increased the carbon tax. No other country in the world has touched it, from 50 rupees within a span of 2 years to 400 rupees, almost 8 times. And we get around $5 billion from carbon tax every year, and this money comes for renewable energy and environmental works. So he has given a lot of time for renewable energy, very popular, established the Solar Alliance. The idea came from him. So, but if you're talking about the social entrepreneurs, I really like a professor in IIT Mumbai. His name is Chetan Solanki, and he has been instrumental in distributing 1 million solar lamps to the students in India. Of course, we have given 30% central assistance, but he's the one who has brought in a new model. The model is that you identify students, villages where there is no electricity, give this solar lamp to the student so that they can read, and then the beauty of this, he also makes sure that these lamps are assembled at the village level. Somewhat like the Bunker Roy's model of solar mamas, where you train homemakers, housewives, how to make solar instruments. So this gentleman has pursued his goal, and he has taken help from everybody concerned, but he has focused on how to make 1 million solar lamps be distributed. They have achieved the target. We are now trying to make it 10 million solar lamps. These people have really inspired me.
That's really great. 10 million solar lamps, that will make a difference. Now, Secretary, you could have done a lot of different things. What created in you that personal passion for renewable energy?
Well, I must tell you, this is a sector I feel very close, because generally every megawatt of electricity from renewables we generate in India or even elsewhere, we create employment for 3 people. We remove 50 cars from the road, and we reduce the carbon footprint to that extent. So this is a win-win situation, and it is no more a question of experimentation. It is a question of necessity, given that the commitment, the climate justice that we require, given the commitment that we have made that we must keep the global mean temperature from rising below less than 2 degrees Celsius. So this is something I feel that we must do. And because I find that electron that comes from solar electricity is different from the electron that we get from thermal, because this electron has a social story. It has an environmental story. It has a human story behind. So for me, the electricity that you get from renewable energy, or the light you get from solar lamps, or the power that you generate in villages to have smart villages, in the mini grids when you find villages electrified, I feel very, a lot of passion, a lot of proximity to this cause. And I feel, the mankind has finally got something, the solar revolution, which will one day make storage so simple that you don't really need thermal electricity. Of course, that is yet to come.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate your insights there. One last question, Secretary. We like to ask all of our guests for a tip we call an impact hack, something that would help us to do more good in the world. What's your impact hack?
Well, I always feel that the impact comes from not from getting land, capital, or technology. The impact comes when you put the human force behind all these three factors, and that comes from the trust and trust that you repose with your colleagues, trust that you have with your workforce. So I feel that the one thing that makes the difference in an organization, given other constant factors like land, labor, and capital or technology, is that how the interpersonal relationship in that organization works, and that is the real motive force, and that is what triggers success.
Fantastic. Well, Secretary, we're thrilled that you joined us today. If you wouldn't mind, please take a moment and tell us before you go how people can get in touch with you and learn more about the work you're doing.
Oh, thank you. I think my email is there, utripathy@gmail.com, utripathy@gmail.com. That is the best way to meet me. I respond to all the mails. And I must thank you. I got some emails from your earlier interviews and some have responded. I'm taking help of one gentleman for the International Solar Alliance. So I must thank you for that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the support you're giving them. We really appreciate the time you've taken to be with us today, and we wish you every success in your work to add renewable energy and bring electricity to the millions of people in India who don't yet have it.
And thanks from my side, and congratulations for having created this fantastic network that you have.
Thank you. Now, let's do some good.